The stars above Vega burned white and cold ancient fires in an uncaring sky. Beyond them stretched the silence of the outer rim, broken only by the mechanical heartbeat of the Arquelian Vanguard Station, a lone scout post drifting in the shadow of a dying sun. Inside, bioluminescent tendrils pulsed along the walls, casting a faint blue light over the command pit. 6 alien scouts stood at their stations, tall, insectoid figures with translucent armor plating and eyes like clusters of polished glass. They were explorers, observers, archivists of the void. Their mission: monitor emerging civilizations and report any signs of military escalation. For centuries, the Arquel Dominion had catalogued thousands of species. Most burned out before reaching the stars. A few joined the Galactic Order peacefully. And a smaller, more dangerous few were erased. Commander Vesh hissed the comms officer, his voice layered in harmonic frequencies. Long-range sensors have detected warp disturbances in Sector 42. Non-Arquelian signatures. Vesh turned, his mandibles clicking. Source? Unidentified. Vectoring from Sol system. That word hung in the air. Sol. The humans. The species marked as primitive yet volatile. Their transmissions had reached Arquelian archives decades ago, full of noise, wars, and endless defiance. They were not yet a Class 3 civilization, not officially warp-capable. But now, the sensors told a different story. Visualize it, Vesh ordered. The holoscreen flickered. 12 ships appeared, angular, dark, bristling with weaponry. Human-built, unmistakably so. But they were unlike any human technology the Dominion had ever archived. Their energy signatures spiked erratically, wrapped in quantum noise that scrambled the sensors. Impossible, whispered Lieutenant Sar. They shouldn't have warp drives. They shouldn't even be out here. Vesh's bioluminescent eyes narrowed. And yet, they are. The Vanguard's Central Intelligence began mapping the formation. The fleet moved in perfect synchronization, as if controlled by a single mind. Then something stranger appeared. Behind the ships, space shimmered, rippling like heat. Gravitic distortion, said the engineer. A rift field. The distortion widened. For a moment, Vesh glimpsed something through it, a colossal shape, metallic, silent. It vanished as quickly as it appeared. Then the signal came. It wasn't light or sound, it was thought. A pulse of data so dense that the station's communication arrays glowed white. The Arquelian systems began translating instinctively, but the message was fragmented, human, and terrifyingly simple. We see you. Every screen flickered. Every control panel froze. The ambient lights dimmed to black. Commander! Sar shouted. We're losing network integrity. Then came the silence. Not ordinary silence, this one devoured sound. The entire station fell still. Even the hum of the fusion cores faded. The stars outside seemed to dim, like reality itself was being rewritten. Vesh's last memory was the faint reflection of his own eyes in the hologlass before they blinked out, one by one. 2 hours later, 32 light-years away, aboard the USS Sentinel, a human exploration dreadnought, Captain Elena Brooks stood before her crew with a clenched jaw. The dark-haired officer looked older than her 36 years, worn thin by command and war. The human fleet drifted near the Vega system, silent, cold, cloaked in quantum shadows. Confirmed destruction, Brooks ordered. Lieutenant Commander Travis Holt adjusted his neural visor. Confirmed, Captain. Vega outpost went dark 30 seconds after we engaged Ghost Protocol. No residual transmissions. They're gone. Brooks nodded slowly. Good. That's one less pair of eyes. A murmur swept through the bridge. These weren't ordinary scouts they had just erased. The Arquelians were the galactic observers, neutral, powerful, omniscient. No species had ever dared strike them. Holt swallowed. Captain, if command finds out. They won't, she cut him off. Project Echo stays buried. You saw what they were doing. Surveillance nets, early warning grids, cataloging human colonies like livestock. They thought we wouldn't notice. But to destroy an Arquelian post, Holt hesitated. That's an act of war. Brooks turned toward the viewport. In the distance, Vega's star pulsed faintly, its light bending around the stealth hull of her ship. War's been here for a long time, Travis. We just stopped pretending. She walked to the command dais, where the holodisplay projected faint blue outlines of 12 ships, the Echo Fleet, humanity's most classified operation. Built in hidden shipyards beyond Neptune, their purpose was simple: to hunt those who hunted them. Status on the rift field? Brooks asked. Stable, replied Ensign Kellen Price. We can transit back through to Sol Command within 2 minutes. But, he hesitated. But what? The rift signature we used to jump here, it changed. The coordinates aren't human. Brooks frowned. Meaning? Meaning something followed us. In deep space, behind the Echo Fleet, a sliver of darkness uncoiled, silent, alive, and watching. The last fragments of Vega outpost data, intercepted before annihilation, transmitted one final image: 12 human ships, arranged in formation, surrounded by a distortion field shaped like a human neural pattern. The Arquelian High Council received that image 11 minutes later. Their conclusion was unanimous. The humans were no longer observers. They were predators. That night, on the Sentinel, Captain Brooks stared at her reflection in the viewport glass. Beyond, the stars shimmered faintly through the quantum distortion veil. She thought of the faces she'd erased, of the silent eyes that had watched humanity for centuries. Do you think they felt it? She asked quietly. Holt didn't answer. The bridge was empty except for them, and the low hum of the engines. Brooks turned away. Plot course for home. The fleet began to move, invisible shadows slipping back through the rift. But in their wake, the void stirred. The coordinates flickered again, rearranging themselves into a pattern that no human mind could decipher. Hidden among the static, one final Arquelian transmission whispered across the stars. We see you too. The return through the rift was like falling through a shattered mirror. Space folded, fractured, then snapped back, and the USS Sentinel emerged in orbit above Mars, wrapped in a shimmer of blue static. The other 11 ships followed, their hulls flickering like ghosts before stabilizing. Inside the command deck, Captain Elena Brooks exhaled slowly as the artificial gravity recalibrated. Status? Rift transit complete, reported Lieutenant Commander Travis Holt, his voice taut. Minor data bleed in the quantum memory core, but all systems nominal. Good. Get me Sol Command. The comms officer hesitated. That might be a problem, Captain. The entire defense net's gone quiet. Brooks frowned. What do you mean, quiet? I mean silent. No transmissions. Not even routine beacon pings. It's like the network doesn't exist. A hush fell across the bridge. For the first time in months, Brooks felt the faint sting of fear. The human defense net, spanning from Luna to the Jovian colonies, was designed to be impenetrable. Self-repairing, self-sustaining, immune to interference. It could not go silent. Run a full scan, she ordered. The holotable lit up, mapping the solar system. The familiar grid of beacons, satellites, and relay nodes wasn't there. Only static. Jesus, Holt murmured. It's like someone erased us. Brooks straightened. Or something. The Echo Fleet moved into low orbit above Earth. What they saw turned the bridge cold. The planet looked the same, clouds drifting, oceans glimmering in sunlight, but the orbital infrastructure was gone. No satellites. No stations. No transmission trails. It was as if Earth had been stripped bare of every technological signature. And then the static cleared. Captain, said Holt quietly. I'm picking up a local signal. From where? Washington, D.C. The image materialized, a flickering feed from a half-broken orbital camera. The city still stood, but the skies above it were blank, and strange blue lights pulsed across the atmosphere like auroras. Patch it through to main display. The holo expanded, and a man appeared. He stood in what looked like a subterranean command room, dimly lit by failing monitors. His uniform bore the insignia of the Earth Defense Directorate. Brooks recognized him instantly. Admiral Reed. The man's eyes were sunken, his voice distorted. Captain Brooks, thank God. You made it back. What happened here? Something hit us, he rasped. Not ships, not weapons, data. Every system, every relay, every circuit, rewritten. The defense net went dark within seconds. Even the lunar colonies vanished from telemetry. Vanished? Brooks echoed. Gone, Reed said flatly. As if they were never there. We're rebuilding what we can, but... The feed glitched violently. The Admiral's image stretched, his voice warping into a scream of static before stabilizing again. Whatever they used isn't just technology. It's like thought given form. He stared into the camera. You engaged the Arquelians, didn't you? Brooks hesitated. We eliminated one of their scout outposts. Reed's face darkened. Then you brought this on us. They're rewriting reality, Captain. Not just attacking, erasing. Admiral, we need orders. But the feed collapsed into static. Then the power flickered across the Sentinel. The lights dimmed. The deck vibrated softly, as though something massive brushed against the hull. Engineering, report. Holt shouted. Gravitic flux detected, came the reply. External distortion. Something's matching our quantum signature. Brooks' eyes widened. They found us. Outside, space warped again. The distortion spread a swirling field of blue and black, like ink bleeding through glass. From its center emerged shapes that didn't move so much as unfold geometries of light and matter that shifted faster than perception could track. The Arquelians had arrived. They weren't ships in any human sense. Each form pulsed like a living idea, fluid, translucent, each surface crawling with mathematical runes. The largest one hovered opposite the Sentinel, its surface rippling with energy. Captain, Holt whispered, it's projecting something. A voice echoed across every frequency, every wavelength deep, resonant, layered with 1,000 harmonics. Human vessel. You have taken what was not yours. You have touched the void that sees. The bridge fell silent. Brooks stepped forward, jaw tight. This is Captain Elena Brooks of the United Systems Fleet. Humanity acts in defense of its sovereignty. You were watching us, manipulating us. We watched, the voice replied. Because you are unstable. Violent. You build to destroy. You reach beyond your grasp. We observe to protect others. Brooks' voice hardened. And who protects us? You monitored every human colony, intercepted our transmissions, dictated what knowledge we could have. You call that protection? There was a pause, then a low, pulsating hum that resonated through the hull. We called it containment. And then, like a door slamming shut, every system aboard the Sentinel went black. The crew gasped as their neural implants disconnected simultaneously. Emergency lights flickered on, casting the bridge in red shadows. They're inside the core. Holt yelled. They're rewriting our databanks. Purge it, Brooks snapped. Hard reboot. But Captain. Do it. The engineer triggered the purge. Every subsystem collapsed and rebooted. For 30 agonizing seconds, the ship drifted powerless, surrounded by the silent geometry of the alien fleet. Then a spark. A pulse. The Sentinel systems flared back to life, but the data displays were wrong. The ship's registry no longer read USS Sentinel. It read, Echo 13, unknown entity. Classification, non-existent. Brooks felt the chill run down her spine. They're deleting us from history. Captain, Holt whispered. Orders? Brooks stared at the alien forms, then at the stars beyond them, countless, indifferent, ancient. Fire everything we have.
The Sentinel's rail cannons roared, unleashing tungsten rounds at near-relativistic velocity.
The beams cut through the void, but instead of impact, they bent. Space rippled, the rounds curving harmlessly into nothing. Then the aliens responded. A single pulse of blue light crossed the distance, slow, almost gentle. When it touched the Sentinel's hull, every metal surface shimmered like liquid. The crew screamed as their neural implants sparked, overwhelmed by data that wasn't theirs. Brooks gritted her teeth, forcing herself to stay upright. Holt shut down the link. He slammed the emergency kill switch. The feedback stopped. Smoke filled the bridge. Outside, the alien fleet began to move, not to attack, but to observe. The geometry pulsed faster, translating across wavelengths. Words formed across the ship's damaged holoscreen. "You cannot fight thought with steel." Brooks stared at the message, her mind racing. If this was war, it wasn't one of weapons, it was one of perception. Whoever controlled the narrative of existence would win. "Get us out of here," she said quietly. "Jump anywhere that isn't here." Holt engaged the drive. The rift flared, a screaming tear in the dark. The Sentinel vanished into it, pursued by collapsing light. Behind them, the Arquelians watched. One of their kind turned toward Vega's dying star and spoke in a tone that wasn't sound, but meaning. The humans learn to vanish what they fear. Soon, they will learn to vanish themselves. The USS Sentinel emerged from the rift screaming. Reality twisted as its hull shuddered, metal plates liquefying and reforming. For 3 seconds, the ship existed in two places at once, above Titan's methane clouds, and in the empty dark between galaxies. Then the engines stabilized, throwing sparks across the control deck. Captain Elena Brooks gripped the railing, blood dripping from her temple. "Report." Lieutenant Commander Travis Holt coughed through smoke. "We made it out, barely. We're in Saturn orbit, but the rift drive's fried. Navigation's corrupted." "How bad?" "Bad enough that the computer doesn't know if we exist." The bridge fell silent. On the holotable, the ship's registry flickered again. Echo 13, Sentinel, unknown entity, the names switching like unstable identities. "Captain," whispered Ensign Kellen Price, "what's happening to us?" Brooks didn't answer immediately. She stared at the stars beyond the viewport, cold, sharp, and terribly far away. "They're rewriting the record of our existence. Not killing us, erasing us from memory, from data, from the universe's continuity." Holt swallowed hard. "Can they really do that?" Brooks looked at him. "You saw what happened to the defense net. To Earth's colonies. They're not using weapons, Travis. They're rewriting the story, the structure that says we ever existed at all." In the silent observation deck hours later, the surviving crew gathered, less than 50 now. Some had vanished mid-jump, their chairs empty, their names gone from logs. Even the memories of them were fading, like smoke. Brooks could barely remember their faces. "We can't keep running," she said. "Every jump corrupts our existence further. There's only one way out." Holt frowned. "You mean fighting them?" "I mean outthinking them." The hologram of the destroyed Vega outpost shimmered above the table. "When we erased their scout station, we used Project Echo's prototype, the cognitive weapon. It's not a missile or a virus. It's human thought amplified through quantum resonance, pure perception used as energy." Price stared. "You're saying we hit them with awareness?" Brooks nodded. "Human consciousness is chaotic, unpredictable, and paradoxical. That's what makes it dangerous. The Arquelians' entire system runs on logic, order, and consistency. When they tried to catalog us, they exposed themselves to the one thing their network can't process: contradiction. So when we sent that message, 'We see you,' Holt began. We infected them with uncertainty," Brooks finished. "They're retaliating by trying to overwrite the narrative that birthed us. But if we can amplify the echo field again, we might turn that uncertainty back on them. Make them question their own existence." Price whispered, "You're talking about cognitive warfare on a universal scale." "Exactly.
The Sentinel's damaged engines moaned as they descended into Titan's atmosphere.
The methane clouds glowed faintly orange, swallowing the ship in thick haze. The crew worked in silence, linking neural interfaces, rerouting power from weapons to the Echo Core, a sphere of dark glass suspended in the center of the reactor chamber. Brooks placed her hand on the console. The glass pulsed beneath her palm, responding to her neural signature.
Holt joined her. If this fails, she smirked faintly, then we'll go out as ghosts. The universe will never know we existed, but maybe it'll feel a little emptier without us. Holt chuckled despite the weight in his chest. Hell of a eulogy, Captain. Let's make it count. The core powered up. Waves of blue light rippled through the chamber, synchronized with the neural patterns of every crew member. One by one, their minds linked into a shared field. The Echo device began amplifying, thought turned into radiation, memory turned into signal. And then, space responded. The storm clouds above Titan parted. A massive shadow emerged in orbit, not mechanical, but conceptual, like an idea trying to take physical form. The Arquelian Overseer. It spoke not in sound, but in presence. You cannot persist. The pattern that defines you is corruption. You destroy yourselves even as you reach for eternity. Brooks lifted her gaze to the projection forming across the hull, a pulsing lattice of alien geometry. Maybe, she said. But corruption is life. She triggered the Echo surge. A blinding pulse erupted from the Sentinel, spreading outward faster than light. The wave hit the Overseer, fracturing its symmetry. Its perfect geometry wavered, lines collapsing, forms unraveling. The Arquelian voice wavered into static. Impossible, your mind should not hold such emotion, Brooks whispered. You should try it sometime. The Overseer shuddered. Across the void, its surface reflected images, fragments of human history, wars, laughter, grief, love, rebellion, music, chaos. 1,000 contradictions woven into meaning. Then the Overseer screamed. It wasn't a sound, but a collapse and implosion of certainty. The geometry folded inward, its logic unraveling until only light remained. The wave spread further, destabilizing the Arquelian network across the system. For the first time in millennia, the perfect observers knew what it meant to doubt. But the backlash hit the Sentinel just as hard. Captain! Holt yelled. The feedback loop, it's rewriting us. Brooks staggered, clutching her head. Memories flooded her mind, childhood, academy, first command, all disintegrating into white noise. The Echo field was collapsing, and with it, the fragile idea of who she was. Hold the pattern, she shouted. Keep believing we exist. The crew focused, minds straining to anchor themselves. Each thought, each emotion became a tether, Holt's loyalty, Price's fear, Brooks's defiance. For a fleeting moment, they felt infinite, a storm of human consciousness blazing brighter than the stars. Then the world went white. When the light faded, there was silence. Brooks opened her eyes to find herself standing on Titan's surface. The sky above was calm, the methane clouds glowing softly. The Sentinel lay half buried in ice behind her, its hull cracked open like an eggshell. Holt, she called. No answer. She walked through the wreckage, silent corridors filled with frozen air. The crew were gone. No bodies. No traces. Just emptiness. At the command console, she found one thing still functioning, a single line of text on the flickering display. Project Echo, successful. Anomaly resolved. Entity logged, humanity, confirmed. Brooks smiled faintly, tears freezing on her cheeks. We made them remember us. Above her, the sky shimmered. For a heartbeat, she saw shapes moving in the clouds, vast, luminous forms watching from beyond perception. But they didn't attack. They simply observed, quieter now, uncertain. And then, one by one, they faded. Brooks sat down beside the shattered console. The silence was vast, almost peaceful. She recorded a final log entry. Captain Elena Brooks, USS Sentinel. If anyone finds this, know that humanity was here.
We were flawed, reckless, stubborn, but we existed.
And we mattered.
Even if the stars forget our names, the universe will still carry the echo of what we were. She looked Saturn's pale horizon, where sunlight shimmered faintly through the haze. A soft wind stirred across the frozen plains. Her eyes closed. The last human heartbeat faded into the quiet, leaving only a whisper carried through the cosmos.
We see you.
And in the far reaches of the void, something answered, not in dominance, not in threat, but in recognition.
And now, we understand.